So today that I thought maybe we'll talk about some of the philosophical importance point. Last time and the past few days, I was talking about how to train our mind. It's about the mind training. So today I thought that we'll talk about the main philosophical points from especially the Buddhist philosophical point, that how that explained Buddhist philosophy that explained about the mind. So this is one very big question in the philosophy field, that what is mind? So last several days we have talked lots about the mind training. So today we'll talk about the what is mind, whether mind really exists or not. So this question, so when I ask what is a mind, from the Buddhist perspective and from Buddhist philosophy point of view, mind is said that it is formless, it is not a form, or it is not a matter. It is totally formless and like energy, which we say the clear and the knowing. And the second point is that now whether the mind really exists or not really. So this is the one very, the very profound questions. Why I'm saying this profound is that there are a lot of the different views about this, the mind, because that the ancient philosophers, some used to say that especially the like a negative emotions like angers and whatever, these all we call the false conception. These are the false conceptions are not existed at all. These false conceptions are not existed at all. So when you feel like you are getting angry, when you feel you are unhappy, that's once you're saying that you feel unhappy, once you generated anger, that anger or the unhappiness is not exist at all. It is just like that you got the deceit. It is not exist. Because it is not exist because of the feelings, these emotions. When you feel this emotion, you can feel it, but these also the false conception and which is not exist at all. But now among the Buddhist system, another system, there are the two systems. The one system say that feeling is exist. These all negative emotions exist. This false conception or the mind all that exists, but not inherently exist. What does the inherently exist means? That it does not exist independently. It exists with the depending others. These all are the depending arising. So that's why in one system pay too much importance for the depending arising idea. In the one system, in one system say that, one school say that these all the feelings and these all emotions are not exist at all. We feel it. We feel like that, but it is not exist. This idea that this schools, it's quite similar the idea with the 16th century when the French philosopher Descartes, when Descartes was explaining about the existence. So he was telling that he is not sure that whether all these external things exist, because he is the one thing he showed that the I is exist. So that's why he said that I think, therefore I am. So here in the same thing, in the philosophical point, what there are the two schools are there. One saying that even the I is not exist. One school says that the I is exist, but I is not inherently exist. So that's why the two sides of the schools. So one is accepting the existent, one is not accepting the existent. So school which says that everything is not exist. So they say that this is everything, what we see, what we hear is a false conception. It's everything the false conception. It's just like in the dream. In the state of the dream, you see a lot of things, you hear a lot of things, but things are not exist at all. In the state of the dream, you might see the tiger, you might see the elephant, you will see a lot of the different animals in the state of the dream. But in the state of the dream, you will see a lot of the animals, but these all animals are not exist. So this is the point. So this is the thing that okay. So now the another school says that everything is exist, yet not inherently exist. Because the school which say that everything is exist, they used to tell the one story that is a quite interesting story, that there is one great master, and he always used to tell that nothing is exist. So one time he was invited in the king's palace, and he's giving teaching to the king. So king asked him that I heard that you always preach and teach the people that nothing is exist. And the master told the king that yes, I always tell that nothing is exist. So now the king raised the second question and told the master, do you really feel that nothing is exist? So master told, yeah, I feel that nothing is exist. So then the king asked, do you exist? Master told, no. The king told that, do I exist? Master said, no. So then the king summoned his general, and asked the master, asked the general that take the master to the execution field and asked the general to execute the master. So general caught the master and took him in the ground where normally they execute the criminals. And normally at that time, ancient time in India, what they do, how they execute the criminals they bury the criminals. They bury the criminal under the ground up till they bury the whole their body up till the neck. So once they cannot move, and they will bring the elephant and let the elephant crush the head of the person whom they have to execute. So what the general did, the general buried the master under the ground up till his neck. Then general went to get the elephant. When the general went to get the elephant, and the king approached near to the master, then also the general was bringing the elephant. Then the king asked the one question to the master. King asked the one question to the master, and the king asked that the master, do elephant exist? Do elephant exist? Then the master screamed and shout and say, yes, elephant exists. I exist. We all exist. So that is the thing, that sometimes it's very easy to see that nothing is exist. Even the false conception is not to exist. It's very easy to see. But in the reality, just like that master, when he was saying that the whole life, that nothing is exist, Nothing is exist. But when he was buried under the ground, and when the elephant is approaching nearby him, he started to accept that the elephant is exist. Because this is the point that it is so that's why here it proves that the things exist, but it's not inherently exist. It exists because of the dependent and the dependent arising. So because of the it not exists independently, it exists because of the depending on the others. So that's the thing. So that's why now here you have to know the one thing from the philosophical point of view, like a negative emotions, like worry or the anger or the jealousy, these all arise in our mind. It exists mainly because of our wrong way of the thinking, because of our wrong perspective. Because of the wrong perspective, that's why the negative emotions comes. Once we have the right perspective, right emotion will come. If you look at all these of the destructive emotions, so it comes mainly because of our negative, or because of the negative or the wrong perspective. So that is the main point. Okay, this is the one of the philosophical point about the existence. Now the second point is that when we look into the things, or when we look into the self, example, like I give the example like a self, whether the self exists or not, that is another question. So in the Buddha's teaching, lots of time he talks about the selfless. Selfless, if you translate by directly the self, literally that means the selfless means self is not exist. Selfless, there is no self. So here again we have to understand the one thing, that the self, here we have to understand the one thing, the self exists, but self is not inherently exist. That is the one thing. But another one school says that the self is not exist at all. But here the one important thing is, again, we have to look from that school point of view, which are saying the self is not exist. When we are saying the self is not exist, mainly that we don't have any evidence to prove that the existence of the self. Normally, how we judge the reality. When we judging the reality, mainly because of the agreements of the other. When someone else agree with what your belief system, then you will judge that your belief system is a right belief. So that's why when I ask you how you can prove that self exists, how you can prove that a thing is exist, you might say that you see it, you feel it. Seeing cannot prove that the things exist. You can see a lot of things which is not there. Like an example, when you see your enemy, you will see your enemy is 100% as a very full of the 100% of the bad and full of the negative qualities. But in the reality, your enemy might be the very good person. When your perspective is a very wrong towards your enemy, you will see that your enemy is a totally and a very bad person. But in the reality, your enemy might not be bad. And when you look at your friend, you will see your friend as a perfect. So that is your perspective. So when you see something as a very perfect, then you will see that person is a perfect. In the reality, that person might not be perfect, and you will see that as a perfect. So here the point is that how you can prove that your self is exist. You might feel the self. You must grasp at the self. But there is what the evidence you can prove that the self is existed. Because the existing is something that so that's why one school says that the self does not exist at all, because there is no evidence to prove that the self is exist. But you can feel that. You can grasp the self as a self. But that cannot be proved to prove, that cannot be evidence to prove to the existence of the self. Yeah, so these are the, so that's the thing. So these are the, I mean, the different philosophical ideas, that about the about that existence. So that's why now in this week I thought to give you the one, I mean the homework, that to think that now what you can do is that this week that you're trying to search the evidence, to two sides of the evidence to prove that how the self is existed. What kind of the evidence you can find to prove the self is exist? This is the one side. And one side is how you can prove that self is not exist. Okay, two sides of the evidence, or the two sides of the philosophical reason. Okay, is there any philosophical reason to prove the self is existed, or any philosophical reason to prove the self is not exist? Okay, so let me, okay, so that are the two schools. So as I mentioned before, that which exists, the self existent and the self is not existed. Okay, so okay, so this is this week's the homework to you all. Try to find some of the reasons of the evidence to prove the self-existent. But the reason is that the evidence don't have to be such a philosophy and the very deep thing. Very simple things, simple reasons. Like an example, when you see the smoke, huge smoke, definitely you will know that there is a fire, because the smoke becomes the reason to prove the fire. Very simple reason, no? But it's a very strong evidence. Whenever you see the smoke, I'm sure you will know that there is a fire. So that's why actually the smoke detector detects the fire. So the purpose of the smoke detector is to detect the fire. There is no fire detector, there is a smoke detector. Because once they find the smoke, then they can prove there is a fire. So smoke is the evidence to prove the existence of the fire. Very simple existence, no? So sorry, very simple reason. So same thing that when you go and search the proof or evidence to prove that the existence of the self, or simple reasons that to prove that the self is not existing. Okay. Okay, thank you. So today we'll stop here. Thank you so much. And this week maybe you just not to meditate, just be a little bit more like a philosopher, trying to search the reason. Okay, this is also one kind of the meditation. We call that the analytical meditation. So you do the analysis on that. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.